people are getting their real estate license and starting a team their first year. Now, there's a lot of teams that don't know how to run a team. If you build a team, if you're going to ascend out of production, you will need to be the trainer. You need to be the mentor. You need to be the leader. You need to be the marketer.
If you weren't independent, is there one that you would go to?
If I wasn't independent, I would definitely interview.
Today, my guest, Nick Mclean. I spent some time coaching with you in the past. I think about high value coaches. Like I got more from you in the short time we were together than you could take all the other coaches I've worked together, multiply times 10. And I didn't get as much from them as I did from you in the period that we worked together. So I have a lot of respect for you and what you've done for my business and for me and my family. And
it's an honor.
Yes. So what's going on with you? It's been, I don't know, man, almost a year, probably maybe last 8 months or so since we've really had a conversation.
Coaching people like you, high achieving, aspirational, and aspirational is not, it's not meant to mean you're small and you want to get big. It's you're aspiring to be better each and every day, personally and professionally. And that never ends. You know, all the people I hang out with, we're all aspiring to grow. And so, yeah, coaching you one-on-one, seeing your business grow, seeing everything you're doing is quite amazing. I'm really proud of you for that too, as well. And, you know, since our time together, you know, continue to, you know, sharpen the axe on our team. Our real estate team's in Wenatchee, Washington. It's the center of the state of Washington, a marketplace of about 100,000 people. If you go out 100 miles, like I was just meeting with Dave Ramsey's team, Ramsey Trusted. So we're joining their network, which is a hint for anyone there, right? Or whatever. And, you know, they showed me their map of like areas that I could cover. And I'm like, holy cow, it's like half the state of Washington. It's like huge. It's massive in terms of an area, really, really big area. You know, and for people listening, it's like, you don't necessarily want to go wide just because you can, right? Like if you have 1 million people in your marketplace, you probably should go deeper roots into the densities instead of expanding. You know, expansion can get people in a lot of trouble. You got to be really strategic and tactical about expansion. You know, I started to expand my team once we hit 20% market share, so that every single percentage above 20 was taking so much more energy. It was exponentially more difficult to grab market share. So then there was a law of diminishing return. It's like, I got to go wide. I got to go to the other areas, right?
Yeah.
But I have to do it in a way that's smart. So I've been working on that. And of course, the Reside Platform podcast I partnered with John Sheplak, Sunit Agarwal, and Preston Guyton, and we're working with, at this time, May 7th, 40 teams across North America, helping them grow and scale and build their teams.
The part about going wide, no, I mean, that's probably my biggest downfall is I'm always like, I can go wide. Well, in Kentucky, especially since I started with expireds, I mean, it took me everywhere. I was killing bugs all over the state. So, but yeah, now I'm trying to narrow it back.
Well, yeah, you know, scarcity does that to us. Low inventory did that to us, where it's like, okay, well, I don't have enough leads or quality listings or quality opportunities within my sandbox.
Yeah.
So or Zillow or Realtor or pay-per-click became very, very competitive in my sandbox. And you're talking to the sales rep on the phone. Well, the sales rep wants to sell you something.
Yeah, right.
So they're like, well, I can't get you zip code 11111, but I can get you 111112. There's availability there. And you're like, well, I'll grab that availability, even though it's 30 miles away and you don't know anything about it, or you have no community network or influence there, or you really don't have an agent that's skilled enough in that area place, but you grab it because it's available. Well, maybe it's available for a reason, right? Maybe the price point's not good. Maybe people are leaving there, not coming there, or maybe they're coming there, but not leaving there, whatever the reason is. You know, I race mountain bikes, right? And we had a mountain bike race on Saturday. I actually had two. One was in the hills, in the mountains, And then you had to use the exact same mountain bike downtown. So they closed downtown Wenatchee, closed it down, and we did 10 laps. Whoever could do 10 laps around 6 city blocks won. It was fantastic. They had a beer garden. The lights were out. It's at night. It was super cool. The reason I tell you that story is because in mountain biking, it's single track. I mean, sometimes the trail is like 6 inches wide, and you're behind somebody. It's competitive and you need to pass them. Or maybe there's a lane to pass. There's two options. So there's a single track to your right, single track to your left. Which one's the fastest? Oftentimes, the fastest route is the one most taken. That's contrary to what we've heard about hard work. Take the road less traveled. Oftentimes, there's a reason it's competitive. Those are the best zip codes. Those are the best areas.
Yeah.
So, so, so there's something to think about there. Anyway, so that what happens is we just end up going wide to these areas that maybe we shouldn't be in the first place.
I found a lot of success in the wide areas. But now, like what you said, when the inventory shrunk, I did the opposite. I came in. I said, okay, well, I'm looking at where the transactions are happening, and there just wasn't as many happening there. There are more happening
Well,
here.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, there's always this dichotomy to things, right? So
yeah,
I read the book, Sam Walton's book about Walmart. Fantastic
yeah,
biography. Um, Making America or something along the lines. It's kind of funny because it's like Making America Great Again. We'll have to look it up in the show notes, but
yeah,
overserved, underserved marketplaces. So yeah, I mean, I've crushed it in areas where there's only one agent, two
yeah,
agents, and they're not very good. So it's Made in America by Sam Walton. Fantastic book.
yeah.
There's a couple follow-up books to that. Made in America by Sam Walton, and then the Everything Store, which is like a Jeff Bezos story, very similar. And then if you read the Elon Musk stories, biographies, very similar as well.
Onto the Reside platform. I think about, my team structure, recruiting, profitability. The beauty of things like the Reside platform is I think that says to me, because I see people join in place and I see people join in Reside, it's like these people that, started this team are now joining a team.
Mm.
And that's where I look at it. It's like in the past, I didn't see people's mind being open like that to like ego wise. Is that something you see? Like is ego a big part of people joining or not joining when it comes to that? Or what are the reasons people join? Let me say that.
Well, first, what is Reside platform, right? What is this thing that has emerged in the marketplace? And yeah, I've thought about it too because I'm one of the founders of it. Is, when I started my team in 2011, there weren't a lot of teams. I was the only team in my marketplace. And really teams across North America, they had been around for maybe 10 years. The Red Book, the $1 Million Listing or $1 Million Agent by Gary Keller came out in 96, or we could look it up in the 2000s. And people started modeling that, but they didn't quite know how to execute on it and make it profitable. Because what happened is, a rainmaker or top producer would start ascending to the point in which they could focus on higher dollar productive activities. And they would have a coach, and the coach would tell you, hey, focus on your highest dollar productive activities, lever out, get leverage on all of your non-dollar productive activities, essentially building a team, an assistant, right? And then a listing coordinator and a transaction coordinator. And now, instead of showing people homes, because that's really time consuming and it's only one-on-one, there's no leverage in showing homes. I mean, you can make a lot of money, and I'm not saying don't sell homes because you need to sell homes and show homes, but you know, let's stop being a buyer's agent and focus on listings. And then the listing inventory would go up and they would do better in listings. And then it's like, well, we shouldn't just waste those opportunities. Why waste all those opportunities? They're just dying on the vine. I talked to an agent that sells 200 homes a year and doesn't even answer his sign calls. Like, he doesn't even have a buyer's agent. It's like, man, how much money are you leaving on the table? He's just a listing machine. So anyways, you get a buyer's agent. That was to lever your time. Well, that was a team. That was like the onset of a team, because now you have a buyer's agent. And really, the buyer agent was on like a referral fee, just kind of someone in your office that would support you. But then that doesn't make a lot of sense. So then you'd bring them on your team as like maybe a referral agreement or something. Well, in the state of Washington and many states across America, that looked like a brokerage, right? So that was a regulatory problem. It's like, well, wait a second. The broker owner's going, whoa, Bob, you're looking a lot like me within my office, and I'm not okay with that. Your image, your brand is bigger than mine on your sign. That can't happen, right? Who's in charge here? People are getting confused. So there was a lot of struggle in the 2010s, pre 2010s about teams. Brokerages didn't know what to do with them. I mean, even Keller Williams didn't know what to do with them because their brands were getting bigger in the marketplace than the actual brand, the broker, right? And so over time, regulations had changed. Broker owners figured out how to charge splits that were competitive for teams. Does that make sense? So then teams had a better environment to grow. I started my real estate team in 2011 as an independent brokerage just to be compliant with the laws and regulations.
Mm.
My broker asked me to leave, gave me a 90-day notice to leave because he's like, I can't have you be a team on my brokerage. It doesn't make any sense. It broke their brains.
Right.
So people often ask me, like, should I go independent because you did? I go, I had to. It was the
Yeah.
only way to do it in 2011. Does that make sense? So over time, things have changed. And now people are getting their real estate license and starting a team their first year.
Yeah.
Their first year. I mean, EXP, LPT, Real, and these cloud-based brokerages, Epic. You can plug in low fees, cloud-based, small capital investment and start a team. See, when I started a team, I had to get brick and mortar. I had to get all the phone systems. I had $80,000 startup fund to start my team. Now you can
Yeah.
start a team for like $5,000.
Right.
Get follow-up boss and a website and boom, 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 you're out of the gates. Right. So what happened is more and more teams. So there's more and more teams. Well, now there's a lot of teams that don't know how to run a team. Like there's so many of them that they're like, well, I'm running a team and they're selling 50 homes, 100 homes. And guess what? They're not making any money. Well, we sold $30 million in volume. We sold $50 million in volume. And, they feel like, and maybe they don't, but it looks like they're rich from the outside perspective. But if you dive into their books, wait a second. I was told I was supposed to start a team. I thought this was what I wanted. I wanted a team. I wanted to grow. I wanted to help other people grow their businesses. I wanted to sell more homes. But isn't there supposed to be some money at the end? So that's where the business IQ, the business development, the systems, the process, the lead conversion, the bookkeeper. When I opened my company in 2012, so I started forming it in 2011, 2012 is when we opened the door. I hired a CPA bookkeeper in my marketplace day one
Mm.
because I'm starting a business, right? I had a bookkeeper reconciling books, balance statement, all this other stuff. People don't think that way on teams now, right?
Yeah.
Teams are like the new agent, and then the agent needs to be developed into a top producer. So what happens over time is, now it's like, okay, John Cheplack, myself, Preston, and Sydney, we're like, how can we support these teams with the biggest rock fundamentals you need? Really like brokerage in a box, where you basically team in a box. You open it up and it has your name on it. You're ready to go. And it's almost like if you were starting in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, if you're going to start a brokerage, you could do it on your own. You could build out your own systems. You could be compliant. You could get licensed with the state or province. You could get your policy manual in place. You could get your agreements in place. You could get all these things in place. You can get your branding in place, source your signs, source your lock boxes, source your marketing materials. Or you could join Realogy, Century 21, Windermere,
Yeah.
Sotheby's. You could just join them and go, boom. And that was the franchise model. So what's happening is already happened before. It's just happening in a different way, where
Mm.
the brokerage is now just a place that does your transactions and is
Hmm.
compliant. Think about it. EXP, Real, LPT, they didn't disrupt the industry as we thought. They didn't disrupt us, the agent or the team. They disrupt the brokerages. And now all of this competition between EXP, LPT, all the competition, guess what's happening? Their rev share models are becoming more competitive, better.
Mm.
Their fees are becoming better. Their splits are becoming better because they're competing, right? It's May 7th. EXP just announced that they changed their frontline agent qualifications to unlock the downline. That is because of the industry competition. Don't think it's because sales are down. It's because there's competition
Right.
with other brokerages. So Reside comes in and goes, we don't really care where you're at. We care about building your team. And so we provide a CRM that we know works, that we work hand in hand with the owners and operators, the technology, and we help you build out the lead conversion part of it, the sequencing of it. We help you with hiring decisions. We help interview. We train agents. We onboard agents, right? So we're like a massive lever and we can do it at scale. So
So
that'll
out of
go.
those brokerages, I got a question about the brokerages because now you're seeing the brokerages from the inside, right? You're looking
Yeah.
at their books, right? Is there one that you see that's more like a more profitable place to be? Or does that change in each market, or does it change with the team? Or like if you weren't independent, is there one that you would go to?
Oh, that's if it wasn't, I would interview, if I wasn't independent, I would definitely interview cloud-based. I'd interview all of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I would just let them be the broker. You be the broker, you be the owner. I'll own my team and I'm going to do what I do best, which is be a leader, be a marketer, be a operator and a manager, be a trainer. I mean, that's what really, if you build a team, if you're going to ascend out of production, you will need to be the trainer. You need to be the mentor. You need to be the leader, right? You need to be the marketer. I look at Elon Musk and it's nice to say his name because he's the richest man in the world and everyone knows him. Dude's a marketer. He bought Twitter. Do you think he bought it for free speech? Kinda. How much marketing dollars has he saved on Tesla, on SpaceX, on every other company he has invested in?
Right.
He can make a tweet and the stock will go up 3 billion tomorrow. Boom.
Yeah.
And he owns the
Right.
platform so he can amplify it. He can make sure everybody sees it. To me, which is fascinating because I've listened to so many podcasts about it. To me, the play was a marketing play for his companies, right? And it gets publicity over free speech. No,
Yeah.
it's free marketing, baby. I mean, look up Fortune 500 marketing dollars. In order to get Tesla to sell cars, he would have to get with Google and do Google pay-per-click. That's
Right.
expensive. Now he's competing against Ford and all these. Forget it. I when that happened, a radio station went on the market in my local marketplace, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna buy the radio station. I'll just buy it." And everyone looked at me. I was crazy. Oh, Nick, you're crazy. What are you going to buy a radio station? That's a dinosaur. I'm thinking, free marketing.
Yeah.
I could put my ad every. I could do an hour segment. I can do whatever I want. I got their full attention. I made an offer on it. I didn't get it. But I did make an offer on a radio station about a year and a half ago. And it was brilliant because I had an opportunity to buy a billboard, two billboards about 7 years ago. And I should have done it. It was $160,000 for two billboards in downtown Wenatchee. And everyone told me, why would you do that? That's the dumbest move ever. So I listened to them and I didn't buy it. I could have had two billboards up for the rest of my life at $2,000 a month for basically $170,000, and I own the real estate underneath it, and there's a moratorium on billboards. So over time, there's just going to be fewer and fewer of them in town.
Yeah.
I was like, so I'm still kicking myself over that 160K
Yeah.
because I had
Shoulda,
the
woulda, coulda.
160K. You know, I spend 500, 600, 700 a month on marketing a year. So what's 150 7 years ago?
Yeah. Every time I scroll Facebook, I think about what you said to me about being a creator and not a consumer. Like I try to limit like what I take it. Like now I've become much more selective in what I allow
Mm.
into my space. And I've worked a lot harder about what I put out. But you know, that That was one thing I wanted to talk about. You brought it up a couple of times, but like the marketing versus the prospecting part, we struggle. I mean, things change every day with the prospecting. It gets more and more challenging, but that's where my business has been based, you
Outbound,
know,
outbound, outbound.
outbound.
Well,
My email rates, I had them up to 55%. And now then they went way back down to 9%. And then I switched email addresses. And for the first 6 emails, it gave me back up over the 40%. And now it's gone again.
yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, if you're an outbound, hunting organization, I mean, you're really positioned in this marketplace.
Yeah.
That's what's going to take. That's what's going to take versus inbound. But don't give up on inbound, which is putting messages out there in the world, marketing with a response, making
Mhm.
offers, get them to respond, hand raisers. You know, I wrote a post on Facebook the other day. It's like basically, if your leads aren't responding back to you, you're that's your lagging measure. That's a problem, right? Like
Yeah.
it means something's broken in your lead systems. You're either not sending messages, sending the wrong messages. You're sending messages, but your messages aren't even being received,
Right.
delivered, or you're sending messages, they're being delivered, but they're not being opened, or they're being sent, then delivered and opened, but they read one sentence and they throw it away. It's garbage.
Yeah.
It's not compelling. So your headline
Yeah.
sucks. So there's like
Yeah.
all these layers to get someone to go, yeah, I'm looking to buy. Yeah, I'm looking to sell. There's like, you got to penetrate a lot of armor in your marketing, to get somebody to respond these days,
Yeah.
So, and it's always been that way. Reading a book, me, Bob, right? Like I like to read classic books. So I just got done with David Ogilvy's book on marketing. And David Ogilvy, if you don't know who he is, he's like the godfather of marketing, Madison Avenue. Like the show Mad Men is kind of based on that time period. This
Yeah.
guy's a this guy's a genius, bro. Genius. And if you find one guru online, Gary Vanderchuk, any guru right now, it's just regurgitated David Ogilvy. I'm telling you.
It's really cool how that works. I've been a lot of Dan Sullivan. Like I got into that
Yeah.
loop
Yep.
and I've been going down that road. I'm always pointing thumbs. Like if they don't open it, then I did something wrong with the headline. If they're not giving me a response, like you said, I mean it's really consumed me. So then I think to myself, as with my team, we're prospecting and we've been really successful with circle prospecting. I mean, of all the things in the world that's been working right now, it's been working because it's like these people that we talk to quit looking for a house because they couldn't find one. So when we call them to ask them if, they ever thought about selling their house or if they'd look at an offer, well, of course, the next thing is like, well, have you looked at for house? Like they're like, oh, dang, I wish I had you as an agent. Well, you can have me, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's been a thing, but then it's the struggle between that and being a good example in that space because I have made some calls, which it's like 6 years I hadn't gone into that the prospecting side of it. It's between that and then making that mass communication because the mass communication, but it takes up so much of my headspace. That's the struggle in my life, right? Is those two things between those two things is spending the time doing the prospecting, but then being over consumed by all the marketing because it's so important, I think.
There's something to be said about taking phone calls. Even to this day, I shocked somebody the other day, one of our Reside team leaders, and by just a reminder, Reside's a consulting company, right? We don't own part of the company. We don't own their data. We don't own any of that, right? They sign an agreement where we work with them and we work with them. It's beyond coaching where it's like, how's it going? How's your day? Did you make your calls? This is like, open up your follow boss. Let's work on some systems together. It's done with you
Yeah.
and done for you. Now, so there's three levels: DIY, do it yourself. That's a lot of coaching's that way. Here's what you can do. Go do it yourself. But I'm gonna help you.
First, first you got to discover that you have a need. That's the
Yeah,
other part of that piece, right? Like it's like the self-discovery part. that you got to go
Yeah.
through that game before actually doing it.
Yeah, nothing against coaching. I coach too, right? And you talked about my coaching style versus other coaching styles. You may have got, thank you for that, got more out of our time together than maybe you've experienced before, because there's an agency problem to a certain extent. There's an incentive, a misalignment of incentives sometimes in coaching. In that, if I fix, even in therapy, if you get fixed, I lose a client. It's like the health industry, right? If
Yeah.
what's more profitable, chronic disease or fixing or preventative
Yeah.
medicine, right? For me as a business owner, and just I didn't get into this industry to be a coach, right? I love coaching. I love what it does, but I didn't get into coaching to make money necessarily, right? Like that's not my goal. So a lot of times there's coaches or therapists where, if you do your work, some of the most profitable clients are the ones that don't actually do the work. They
Right.
got to hear it 19,000 times
Yeah.
because you get charged every time. It's recurring revenue. Think about it. Now, I don't think they're malicious. I just think that's just the structure of it. So when I go into coaching, it's like, no, here we go. Here's my manual. Here's my thing. Here's do this, whatever, right? And I've even got rid of I mean, I've I've got rid of clients because I'm just like, you're not doing the work. That's why I love working with people like you, Bobby. You do the work. It's like it's
Yeah.
done. Good. Like 95% of the people that get coaches don't actually even do the work.
Yeah.
So they don't. So we at Reside, we noticed that too, is was like, okay, that's the hole in coaching, is they don't do the work because it's DIY. You get off the phone call or you watch the course, and then guess what happens? You check your emails, you check Facebook, your agent's at your door, your wife or your husband needs you to go do something. Yes, things get in the way, right? It's not that they're not hard workers. They're working really hard and doing a lot of things, right? So there's DIY, and then there's done for you or done with you. Okay, well, let's check back in with each other while we're on the call. Let's open up your systems. Let's actually do some work together, right? Jump on a call with my virtual assistant. They're going to train your virtual assistant. Like I have a client right now. My virtual assistant is training his virtual assistant on being an ISA, right? Like my
Hmm.
resources are your resources. Now, then there's done for you. Here's what we're going to be doing while you're out doing your thing, right? We're going to plug in these automations. We're going to set up this. We're going to train your agents on Thursday at 11. Just make sure they show up. We'll even remind them to show up, right? So we're going to do stuff for you. Now, in that concept, Bob, works in every industry, right? And I thought about it in terms of listings, right? What listing garners the highest commissions? The one in which the agent tells the seller what to do and they need to do it to prep their home. The agent that goes into the listing and helps them schedule painters, cleaners, stagers with them, or the agent that goes into the house and snaps their fingers and their production crew comes over, their their glass cleaners come over, window cleaners come over, their professional cleaners are set up, everything's set up. They rekey the house for them. They put the lockbox on them, right? It's just like done for you. Which one garners more commissions? It's no brainer, right?
Right.
I'm doing a course right now with Brittany Pino and Associates in Baton Rouge called the White Glove Listing Course. It's a 6-week course. That is teaching people how to create a listing experience that is so done for you, top level. We don't talk about commissions one time,
Mm.
but I promise you, everyone that takes that course, their commissions are going to go up 1%, 2%. And Bob, you worked with me, so you know it's possible to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I
And
tell you, it's when I saw that come out, I went through your listing course, right? Not only
yeah,
did I go through it, the team, I mean, we adopted it, 90% of it. I've got a really good addition to it,
that's
is
great.
just the process part. But the part that I appreciate the most and the part that's been the most helpful with this, changes with NAR and everything else is attaching to what people want, like, or attaching to what they need as opposed to what I think they need. And that's
Mhm.
like, the part that I didn't have in my presentation before is like, the part about running the numbers and getting, what they, is that going to be okay for you? Like, or, like that was not part of my process before, and grouping everything together. And, there were a few really key moments in that presentation that, man, I, right now, if we don't take the listing, so this is another thing I figured out from Chat GPT. Who's my biggest competition? Because I had to fill in that. I did, ask me 25 questions about my business, whatever. It says, who's your biggest competition? And it took me a couple minutes to reflection. My biggest competition is a relationship that somebody else has with somebody else. That's the
Mm,
only time I lose a listing is
mm,
if it's like somebody got referred by somebody at church, or it's a cousin's sister, or whatever it is, that has no experience whatsoever. Like they don't have anything. They're not even on the same playing field. But that's my only competition, really. So it's really interesting. I think that it's been so helpful attaching to people's what they want as opposed to what I think they want. And that's the biggest thing I got from it. But
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot there. That is the number one competitor that, or the number one you're most likely to lose. The probability of you losing a listing is not to the 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace.
no,
It's
no,
to the person they go to church with, the person on their PTA board, the person that, their parents referred them to, or friend referred them to, or their friend or nephew or cousin that got their license. And it's because they already have a built-in relationship.
the relationship.
Or the relationship's not there, but they're gonna be the relationship's a longer term relationship where they have to face that person after it's done.
Yeah.
And it's awkward and it's weird, right? So there's
Yeah.
some psychological barriers there. So the best way to compete there is not to compete. And guess what? It has nothing to do with your CMA. It has nothing to
No.
do with your CMA. I
Mm-mm.
mean, I love the CMA, the market analysis. It is, I think, fiduciarily probably required. You could say, well, I can do it without it. Okay, whatever. Yeah, you could. But I think it's part of the process. But it's over the agent focuses on that way too much. And when I was building a real estate team, I didn't want them to overly focus on that as the because they think that's what's going to define whether or not they get it or not.
Yeah. You lose
Like
it because of that.
The CMA is irrelevant if you don't get the listing.
Right.
And the CMA, the market analysis, it's not written in stone. It's not a tablet that you chisel out that can't be changed. It is water, like Bruce Lee. It should be changed. Like it's a recommendation at the time that I give it to you, but as soon as you sign the listing, I reserve the right to do more research and change it and
Yeah.
advise you on the changes. The winds change. It's like, if I was a commercial airline pilot, so it's like, today if I took off, I would use runway 34 because the wind's coming out of the northwest. And then you're like, you know what, Nick, I don't want to list my home today. I want to list my home next week. Okay, great. We're going to take off runway 34. Well, what
Yeah.
if the winds are going the opposite direction, 160 out of the south? Do you still want me to take off on runway 34? Because that's what I said.
Yeah.
No, we have
No.
to adjust the weather change, people.
Right.
I got the listing. Now you're my client. And now I have a duty and responsibility to tell you the wind's changed. So I told you $400,000 the other day. Well, guess what? I just noticed interest rates went to 7.8%.
Yeah.
And your neighbor listed their house for 380. And I said
Yeah.
400 for yours. So it's like, but if I didn't get the listing and Bob got the listing and the winds changed a week later, I don't call Bob up and say, "Hey Bob, hey, good job getting that listing. Did you notice the wind changed? You want to go?" No,
No.
it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
And they're like, "Well, Nick, I'm so scared of getting an overpriced listing." No, you just don't have the guts to have conversations about pricing after the initial price. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like as team leaders, broker owners, like recruiting. I know I need to hire this person. Okay, well, why haven't you hired them? Well, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, great, awesome, cool. Is it the money? No, I got the money. I can afford them. Okay, great, awesome. So what is it? Well, I don't want to make the wrong hire. Oh, I get it. You don't want to make the wrong hire. Okay, why don't you want to make the wrong hire? Because then they're going to waste my time and money. Oh, okay. Put them on a probation period. Oh, I already do that. Oh, good. You do a probation period. So $5,000 a month, 90-day probation, $15,000. So that's the most you could lose. Well, no, it's not the most I can lose. Oh, that's right. Because you don't actually have the guts to do the probation period. You don't trust yourself enough. You know you don't have courage enough to let someone go on the 90-day mark because they're not performing.
Yeah. Or
Or
you're
you
not going
don't,
to give them enough during the 90 days to really be able to judge their performance.
yeah. So it's like, here's what helped me a lot in hiring even agents is being willing to see people leave. Now they leave because of me, because I didn't give them enough, do enough, train them enough, busy enough. Okay, I can observe that and I can make adjustments. Or I made the wrong hire or something happened and it didn't work out. But now I have the freedom where I can trust myself to do that and have that performance review. I mean, I've hired people and it's like day one, week one, in my calendar, 30-day performance review, 90, 60-day performance review, 90-day performance review, calendar invite to Bob.
Yeah.
And here's what we're going to look at. And really, if I'm hiring an employee, I don't expect results in 90 days, but I expect process, I expect growth, I expect learning, I expect on time, I expect character, I expect values.
Mm,
And so that's what I'm
really
going to
cool.
look at 30, 60, 90. And
Hmm.
then guess what happens at the end of the 90? Now we got KPIs. Right now at the 90-day mark, I can say, okay, now I'm expecting 4 appointments a month. I'm expecting this based on you. And
Yeah.
if so that's part of like, I don't know how I came to that conclusion in this conversation, Bob, but it's like knowing yourself is going to help you as well. And it's like, oh, okay, so that's what's holding me back.
Like
Ah,
pointing thumbs and not fingers. Like
mm.
knowing how you're going to react to that person is what's holding you back from.
This is what I noticed about business too. Man, people are resilient. They are so resilient. They are like in America. I mean, they can bounce back tomorrow. I mean, they leave your company, boom, they're bounced back. You let someone go, boom, they bounce back. I mean, whether or not they go on support, government support for a little bit of time period, maybe they go back to school, right? Maybe they get another job. But I've seen people almost every single time that I've let someone go, they've gone on to do better things.
It benefits them because they're
Benefits
not in
them.
the yeah,
I'm holding them back. I mean, it's kind of
yeah,
cliche, but you got to trust that, society is going to pick them up. And they're also sometimes they just need that little fire, that urgency. You ever have someone leave your company and they're fired up? They start
yeah,
posting on their social media is blowing up.
yeah,
They're prospecting, they're
yeah,
following up. And you're like, if you would have done that here, you would have crushed it. Well,
yeah,
they needed that. They needed that catalyst was like, dang, I just left. Dang,
yeah.
right? Yeah, I'm gonna
Like they got
prove
something
it.
to prove. They got
I
to
got
prove
something
it.
to prove.
A
Or
chip on their
just
shoulder.
flat out survival, right?
Yeah.
It's urgency. And that urgency you couldn't have put in there. Well, you could have with maybe some deadlines, some accountability, but it's cool. It's really, really cool. So
So my wife said to me today, maybe you can help me with this. Or she said it yesterday. Because like I said, we've been really focused on the circle prospecting, right? Well, then it's like, we've got two, three different things, right? We got prospecting, then we've got follow up, then we've got skills, right? Those are all three really important things to do business.
yeah.
And my challenge is that I get too focused on one of them, and then I let off like that's the part that I have to systemize is the part that keeps all of those things moving in the same direction.
Yeah, no, so there's skills. I love skills. Man, I was watching something last night about um, this world champion It was a Russian world champion, two-time gold medalist wrestler, and I'm gonna I'm going to omit his name for pronunciation reasons, but this guy at 20 years old won a gold medal in a world championship. Okay, apparently every day he would wake up at 6 a.m. since he was 6 years old and wrestle before school and do workouts before school. I mean, this is part of the community. Like, bro, like really.
Yeah.
And so that's what it takes to become a world champion is that dedication to your skill, to your craft. And so when you look at yourself in terms of a real estate agent, a real estate team leader, and a broker owner, whatever it is that the level, what level are you looking to achieve? Because that's the level of skill that's going to be required. And in order to be a world-class athlete, I'm telling you, it's a minimum. I've studied world-class athletes, probably 16 to 24 hours a week to be
Mm.
a to be a professional athlete. To be a professional athlete, you need to dedicate 16 to 24 hours a week. And that's development on your physical body, your skill sets, right? That's not games. That's not
Mm.
games. That's not practices. That's skills, right? There was
Mm.
the number one basketball player when I graduated high school. I played college basketball, and I went to community college, like a JUCO community college, and this guy was the same height that's me, so I had no excuse, right? I'm not 7 feet. I'm 6'2". He's 6'2". He went to the NBA. I didn't. Well, guess what? He played basketball for 2 hours a day every morning before school,
Mm.
and at lunch he'd play basketball. So that was 3 times 6 to say it's 6 days a week. That's 18 hours.
Yeah.
And he did that since he was 10. So when it comes to becoming a real estate agent, like how many hours a week are you working on your skills? Have you read the contract? Have you even read the contract? Because I can tell you this, I have. Have you taught the contract? Right? Do
Mm.
you know what the listing agreement says? Can you explain every single word line by line by line by line? That's skills, man. That's depth to you, right? Not just the script. Now there's scripts and dialogues on the phone, but then there's this well of knowledge that has to reinforce that. And so when I got into real estate, as a professional airline pilot, because I realized in order to get on the 747, I trained for 6 months, 5 days a week, 8-hour days for 6 months before they let me fly the 747. Well, that's professional pilot. Now, you can get your license, Bob. Do you want to become a private pilot someday? I don't know. Maybe. Are you a private pilot?
I'm not. I
Does any
it
does,
it was something on my radar in the past. I mean, it
okay,
hasn't. I
cool.
haven't thought about it recently.
So let me just give you an example. You can become a private pilot in 60 hours. I trained on the 747. That's after getting all my licenses for 4 years. For 6 months, 8-hour days, 5 days a week.
Wow.
That's professional.
Yeah.
Doesn't that knowing what you had to the dedication you had to give to your craft, isn't that the same? The level of time and effort and focus on skill building that you've done, Bob, throughout your career compared to the person that took the the 7-Eleven 60-hour online course isn't the same,
Mm-mm. Not even close.
right? Like when I got into real estate, my goal was to be a professional real estate agent. When I started my team, I wanted to be a professional. And they thought because they had a license, they were a professional. No, no, no. Pro versus amateur. It's like there's a book. I think Stephen Pressfield has a book about something along that, right? And so you got to be a pro. And like John Sheplick says, if you want to get paid like a pro athlete, you got to act like one.
The skill part, I love that. The challenge between those three different buckets is probably me. Like I get really focused on the skills and I get really focused on the prospecting. I get really focused on the follow up, but it's like finding that mix that keeps everybody moving. Right. And then when you have people like when you said that, like I've had the interest in improving my skills, but I can't force people to want to improve their skills. And that's like one of those things. It's one of those variables in there. It's like, okay, we got activity, we've got the skills. And if you put in the activity and you don't have the skills, well, you're not going to get the results. Like you gotta have both. That's been the challenge.
What I think is missing too in the real estate team world and broker owner world is it's not training, right? We're probably overtrained.
Right.
It's coaches. It's
Yeah.
coaching. Like, okay, so if I was coaching a basketball team, right, I need to have practice. I need to coach a practice. So not coaching the game. See, I think we have
Mhm.
coaches in the game. Like, okay, Bob, if you got an appointment, I can coach you through the appointment. Or Bob, you got a
Run
you
into a hiccup.
you're writing an offer, I can coach you through that.
Yeah.
Right? You're negotiating or you're trying to save a deal. I'm coaching you through that. That's game time. But are you coaching practices? And are your practices building skills? Right? Like my daughter's 6 years old. She has a soccer practice, and I can tell. This practice, they're working on defense. They're working on keep away. They're working on certain techniques, right? They've chunked it down. They've broken it down to right, like ball handling, passing,
Yeah.
right? Positioning, right? And that the coach needs to set them up on the field in the right position. All right, Adeline, Ada, Catherine, you're over here. Okay, you guys are the yellow team. You're the blue team, and then we're gonna run this drill. So I think coaching practices and drills. What's your drill for today?
Mm.
Like I have a team meeting um after this, Bob, and I've already sent out my agenda for today. And it's it's what questions to ask prior to the listing agent prior to making an offer.
Mm.
There are 10 questions. So I of the entire game, I'm breaking down one play. And so what's my team meeting today? I'm coaching one play. We're going to practice this one play. So I'm going to teach it, we're going to review it, and then we're going to go around and get some reps, right? And then I'm going to open it up and then it go. So like I have intentions for every trainings that I do. Trainings. I'm the coach.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, how am I going to get, okay, Susan's pretty good at that. So maybe I'll have Susan at some point stand up and give her take on it because I know she does it well and people look up to her. Right. And I know I got Marshall and he's brand new and he probably doesn't even know what some of these words mean on the form. Right. So
Yeah.
there's this like I gotta break down like words that people don't even understand the terminology on, bring him up to Susan's level, then let Susan be able to come in and mentor him. So as a coach, I'm working on I'm playing that a little bit. So I think, when I got into real estate teams 13 years ago or 12 years ago, it was more about being that coach. It was more about, you know, the analogies between sports teams and real estate teams. And at some point it became lead conversion,
That's it
and that's
right
it.
there. That's my biggest takeaway from our conversation. I've had a bunch, but that's my biggest one is that I get too focused on lead generation and lead conversion. And the confidence comes from the skills of being a real estate agent. Like those skills, those contract skills, and those other skills build the confidence that backs up the rest, right? Like having that be part of, when we practice, it usually goes straight to scripting for getting more, leads and appointments. So
Yeah, yeah. And
it's
so what
really
happens
good.
is you're
Really good.
working you're the coach doing a running a practice and you're working on a certain skill set that's part of the process. So I
Yeah.
like to look at a process and I'll chunk it to the smallest part of the process, and I'm gonna go, okay, we're gonna really hammer that one today.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna bring it back to lead conversion. I'm going to go, okay, now let's bring it into the real world. How does this practicing the crossover or the back step or the pullback, how does that move translate to the real game? So let's imagine you're on the phone call and you're talking to this buyer and they're from out of town and they're moving here. Or let's say, let's put you in the house now. You're in the house. You've shown them two homes. You ask them this question and it leads into calling the listing agent. Now you ask these questions. So like then you bring them into the real world on there. It's a
Yeah.
little Mr. Miyagi stuff. So
It's
because
really
as
good.
a team leader, as a coach, you're the one at the 50,000 foot view looking down,
Yeah.
and you can see the holes in people's businesses. So I was working with someone yesterday and they have a listing agent. They have a cool new mentor. I helped him out with it. A mentor mentee listing agent versus non-listing agent model, right? Like to give a brand new agent a listing appointment and let them go solo is atrocious.
Yeah.
Like you should have some type of monitoring or mentorship. It doesn't have to be compensated. So, anyways, he has this agent. She's done 30 CMAs, zero listings.
Mm.
Mm, right? She doesn't know where she obviously doesn't know where she's falling short. Right. So we spent 15 minutes diagnosing the process, trying to figure out where is the breakage there. Because there's
Yeah.
obviously a break in the process, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Well, we identified this. She was sending the CMAs over by email. That's it. We found
Yeah.
it. We found it. Right. So now we got to go back and get her to learn how to present the CMA in person and
Yeah.
run the numbers in front of the person. What do you think her conversion rate is going to be now? Emailing a CMA versus setting
Better
up
than
a
zero. Better than
better
zero.
than zero. I think she's just going to just being in the right position,
Yeah.
which is across the table at the office or there,
Yeah.
and it's going to result in probably out of the 30, at least five, maybe at least one. So
Yeah.
that's the stuff I love about running a team. That's what
Man.
running a team's like.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, man. I really appreciate your time, man. I don't want to go over here and man, it's really good. I appreciate it. And it's great catching up and hopefully we get to talk soon and hopefully I know people are going to find a ton of value in this. And I did
I
this
can't
selfish
wait.
part of it. We'll go back to the selfish part. I did.
It's a lot like our conversations we used to have all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I really appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
Cool. Thanks, Bob.